So today we're going to go over, once again, how to import your CDs into iTunes. So I've already gone ahead and opened iTunes, and you see the opening familiar menu. And notice here the library is selected. So if your library is not selected, why don't you go ahead and just, for example, left-click on Library to bring up your library. And if you see that your screen looks different than mine, it looks something like this. Here's the list of the movies. You can just go into Edit, and then click Show Browser. You left-click now, and you'll see it back to this format. So, at this point, we're going to insert a CD, and we're going to burn it to add our songs to the iTunes. Now, we've previously configured it to record it at MP3, which you don't have to worry about now, because again, we've set that to make it appropriate. So I've just put the CD in the drive. I'm going to go ahead now and wait for it to load, and you're going to see over here, as soon as the computer picks up that there's a CD, it just blinked, it's going to take it, and there you go. If you saw up here it said accessing Grace Note, it was a brief instant, because what it's done now is it's looked to see what I've put in here. And you can see this is Beethoven, and the computer knows that. It's by this little button, the CD icon with an eject icon next to it, and it's identified the tracks. So I wouldn't want to have to type those in. That would take too long. If you want to see exactly what it is, you can hold down the left mouse key, almost like you would in Word or Outlook, and slide it open to see more. But that's, again, depending on your screen real estate. So let's go ahead and record this. I happen to want to take all of these songs. So what I'm going to do is, there are two, you want to select all of them. So let's go to Edit, Select All, and notice next to it, there's Control A. So you could just left-click to make them all blue, or I'm going to hold down the Control and the A button, and the same thing occurs. At this point, we'd like to record them now. So we're going to go up to Advanced, and come down to where it says Convert Selection to MP3. Or your other choice is to right-click anywhere in the blue, left-click Convert the Selection to MP3. You can see on the top, Importing Lenore 1, Opus 138. Time remaining, it's telling us there's about 3 minutes left for us till it's done, and it's recording pretty quickly. And this sign here shows you that this one is recorded. Your other option in iTunes is to listen to the songs while they record, but you'll be here looking at the length of these for the next 45 minutes, which is probably not practical if you're recording a lot of music. So, let's wait for this to record, and then we'll be back. Okay, so at this point you can see there's around 25 seconds left, or 22 seconds left, in importing the Fidelio Overture. You see down here, numbers 1, 2, and 3 have already been imported with the check marks, and it's now on number 4. As soon as it's done, it will make a, if you have your speakers turned on, a sort of a doo-doo-doo beep that you will hear if you're somewhere else or working with another program on the computer, and you're doing this in the background, which I would recommend. You'll hear that beep to tell you that your songs are ready. So, at this point, my machine just beeped and told me it was ready. So, the trick now is let's get these songs into our iPod, because that was the whole purpose. Again, let's look here. We have, just for a second, to show that we've imported these. I've just clicked on it. And again, I'm sliding this like I would any other column. And this is Beethoven Overtures Disc 2. So let's remember that. So let's go back over to our library. And again, in the last edition, we saw how to use the library. But let's come down to Artist, or an even faster way. Let's go to our genre, which we said it was classical, Beethoven. And if we look over here, again, you can sort through it all. And right here, here's where it is. There are other ways to get around it here, but for now, you can see it's here. So, let's go ahead now and connect the iPod, if it's not already connected. And you remember that you have the white cord, and we'll plug the white cord into our iPod, and the computer will probably make a beep to tell you that it's connected, or not if your speakers are off, or if the sound is muted. At which point the computer is now connecting with the iPod. Again, if you haven't already connected it, really what we're going to do now is, again, you can see that iTunes is thinking while it waits for it to recognize the iPod. And your iPod at this point probably says, "Do not disconnect." And when it says that, it means it. So let's go ahead and wait for the computer to recognize the iPod, which could take a minute or two, and that's okay, especially if there are a lot of songs on your iPod like I have. So at this point, my computer has recognized the iPod. Yours might not necessarily give you this option, but again, I don't want to use the real player. And you can see that option has disappeared because iTunes knows about it. So sometimes iTunes will ask you to update the software. If you're not sure how to update software, then you should not do that. But I don't want it to ask me again. So let's just click OK. Let's click Cancel because I don't want to download it now. If that doesn't come up on your machine, don't worry. But let's look over here on the thing that it says. Over here, David's iPod, and it's flashing. Now let's look over here, and you can see it says updating iPod, do not disconnect. And what that's doing now is copying. You can see copying 205 to David's iPod, and right under the Beethoven Overture CD, you see the iPod connection. So as soon as the machine is done copying the songs, it will tell you that it's done copying and that it's okay to remove. Again, do not remove the iPod until iTunes tells you that it's done copying, and more importantly, if you just tap the click wheel of the iPod, if it says do not disconnect, even if iTunes says it's okay, don't do it. The iPod itself takes precedence over when or not you can disconnect the iPod. If you disconnect in the wrong time, you can freeze the iPod and have a hard time getting back into your music, so it's worth it to just be patient. So at this point, you can see that it's finished copying the songs, and it says still saying updating iPod, do not connect. And depending on your machine and the speed of your computer, that might take a couple of minutes. At this point, it now says on the top, iPod update is complete, okay to disconnect. I look on my iPod, and I see that I have the click wheel back, and I'm allowed to use the iPod. It does not say any warnings about disconnecting. And then if you went to browsing your iPod, you would see that your new music is there. So that concludes this tutorial on how to add songs to your iPod from a CD. Enjoy.